Welcome back to our channel, Living on the Ohio River. Hi, I'm Kara Henshaw from Key Associates Signature Realty. If you're new to our channel, tap that subscribe button. And if you've been watching, thanks and give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate your loyalty. As you know, I am a local realtor. As much as I love to shoot these videos, I do sell real estate. So if you are relocating, reach out, click the link in the description. We have a great relocation guide if you're looking to move to this area. So let's get started. The question that everybody is asking: home prices play an important role in the 2024 election. I'm reading a New York Post article, and the reason it might surprise you and what happens with regards to the full US and kind of what's going on here locally with our pricing and supply. So to start it off, I'm going to read a little bit of this article. Home prices could play a subtle but important role in 2024 presidential election, according to the recent first of its kind study. Housing Performance and Electorate analyzed home prices and election results at the county level for each of the 6 presidential elections from 2000 to 2020. The authors found that local home prices performance significantly affects voting in presidential elections at the county level. Counties with superior gains in home prices in the 4 years preceding an election were more likely to vote switch to the incumbent party's presidential candidate. Conversely, counties with relatively inferior home prices performance leading up to election were more likely to flip their vote to support the candidate challenging the incumbent party. Quickly rising home prices tend to favor the incumbent president's party, whether it be the Democrats or the Republicans. The study found that the relationship is strongest in the years closest to an election, and the home prices were most influential in the small group of swing counties with a history of switching party performance. So I did look at home price performance. They have a little chart here for the state, and let's talk Indiana, Kentucky, because that's what we are. It shows a 48%, isn't that crazy, for Indiana, and 44% for Kentucky. So there is a lot going on with regards to increasing in pricing over the last few years. What I thought I'd do is let's go back into history a little bit, since they say kind of interest rates and the economy and how home price values are going will affect this election. I thought I'd kind of go into the past and let's see what happened. So I pulled some different areas. So 1980 presidential election, which was Carter versus Reagan. The interest rate trend was the late 1970s and early 1980s saw extremely high interest rates due to inflation. The Federal Reserve under Volcker raised rates to combat inflation, peaking at around 20%, guys, in 1981. That was our interest rate. Everybody remembers that, and they all talk about it. The correlation with that election cycle was high inflation, and interest rates were major issues during the 1980 election. Reagan's policies focused on reducing inflation, which eventually led to lower rates by mid-1980s. So far, does that kind of sound familiar to you? We're kind of in that a little bit, maybe not to the extreme of the 20%, but I do see some similarities here. 1992 presidential election. This was Bush versus Clinton. Interest rate trend. In the early 1990s, the U.S. was recovering from a recession. As we all know, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates significantly, bringing the federal funds rate down to 3% by 1992. I was in college during this time, guys. Correlation with election cycle. The economic concerns, including high unemployment then and a slow recovery, were central issues. Clinton's election brought expectations of economic reforms, which continued the trend of low interest rates to stimulate growth. So things weren't too bad during that time. Obviously unemployment was the focus, which I think is a little different now. Employment still is doing fairly well, and I actually think there is a small increase in wages, not much, that's being reported as of today. So a different landscape a little bit compared to that election. Okay, 2000. Presidential election, Bush versus Gore. Interest rate trend. The late 1990s saw a strong economy with low unemployment and robust growth. The Fed increased rates to curb appeal inflation, with rates peaking around 6.5%. So there you go, the interest rates were climbing. You know, we're at between 7.5 lately. This year it's kind of been fluctuating up and down. We're kind of similar into what 2000 was in interest rates. The correlation with the election cycle. The 2000 election occurred during a time of economic transition from a boom to early stages of the dot-com bust. The uncertainty post-election and subsequent recession led to rate cuts by the Fed. Okay, on to 2008. What happened in 2008? Presidential election, Obama versus McCain. Interest rate trend. The 2008 financial crisis led the Federal Reserve to drastically cut interest rates. These are some of the lowest interest rates that people saw, and honestly, kind of the start of what's caused some of our problems today. They cut interest rates, bringing them close to zero by the end of 2008. If you weren't buying a home then, you should have been. Correlation with election cycle. The financial crisis was a pivotal issue in the 2008 election. The incoming Obama administration, along with Fed actions, focused on the economy recovery, resulting in an extended period of very low interest rates. There was a long time there, guys, that we had those very low interest rates. People had locked in at 2.5%, 3%, maybe even lower than that. And they still own those homes today. So 2016 presidential election, we're getting closer to where we are today. We have Trump versus Clinton. Interest rate trend. Leading up to the 2016 election, the Federal Reserve had begun to slowly raise rates from historical lows, with the federal funds rate moving from 0.5 to 0.75% by the end of 2016. Still fairly low, guys. Correlation to the election cycle. The election's outcome created significant market speculation about future economic policies. Trump's victory led to expectations of fiscal stimulation, deregulation, and tax cuts, prompting a gradual increase in rates. Okay, so here we are. We are at election time this year, guys. That is our past. If you look at actually all of those different scenarios, I feel like the one that calls the closest is we are at high inflation right now. Our interest rates are higher, but they're not terrible. I mean, they're back what was 2008 time frame, 6.5%. The problem that we have today is because of those low interest rates, we have values. Have they fallen? Have they dropped? Have they gone up? I looked at our county as I predicted, or I didn't predict on film, but I assumed we'd be flat this year. Currently though, we are up 3%. So we're fairly flat if you look at the main counties in this area. The average price last year was $226,000, and this year it's $233,000. So that's a 3% increase. But the other problem, which depending on how interest rates go as we get closer to elections, is inventory. Inventory has been our problem. We've been in a gridlock. We have all these people that are in this low interest rate in their homes, not willing to sell, but we also have affordability problems. We have inflation problems. People can't afford to sell the house, even though they're making a lot of money because of values. They can't afford the jump up to the interest rate, which is their payment difference, plus the inflation for just the cost of living. So there's a lot of things that are not allowing our supply to basically increase as much as we need it to increase. But even if it did increase, I don't know if the affordability is there right now with that interest rate. So there's a lot that could happen as we get closer to elections. I did look at inventory here locally. Last year, we were at 1,859 listings if you look January to today in the area. And then I looked at last year at the same time period and we had listings of 1,709. So that's a 9% increase in more homes on the market today than last year if you look at the first half of this year where we're at today. So can I predict, will our values, first of all, go up or down? Will interest rates go up or down because of this election? And will there be swing votes on how people look at that? If you're looking at Indiana today, I'm not sure that we are a swing state from a standpoint of home values, but we are doing well. If we're up 3%, people are pretty happy. Their values are staying firm. They're not falling like some areas of the country are at this moment. So as we get closer to this election, well, obviously I think we will be a state that obviously is good in regards to values, but will interest rates change? That's another question that people have. Will the interest rates change during the election? And I honestly think there's not gonna be a lot of change. They may tick up, they may tick down, but I think the Fed is very cautious to mess with the rates when you have a new presidential election coming, because you don't know the policies coming from either party. And people in the Fed are going to be cautious about that. They're not going to swing it one way or another, but they're also not going to swing it way down because we have inflation problems. And that is one thing. When we have inflation, interest rates do not usually go down, they go up. So I would say they're going to stay flat, maybe peak up a little bit. Some people are predicting that they're going to go down. I personally don't think they're going to go way down. They do, it's just a very small amount compared to where we are today. But I do think that, after the elections, you could see some different changes take place depending on the policies of the people that get in office. So here we are. Indiana's doing okay. Our interest rates, yes, we're higher, our supply is up, and our values are holding strong. So I don't know if I answered a whole lot of questions in regards to what's gonna happen, but I do give you a little bit of my predictions and what is going on here locally. Election years always change things. It can cause things to go up or down. If you have more questions, a little bit more details about certain areas, reach out. Love to help you. I know counties, towns, everything's a little different and hyper-focused. So just because I gave you a very wide area of southern Indiana does not mean that maybe certain areas within that area are a little different. So hope this helps. Give me a call, 812-686-3268. And until next time, I'll see you then.
We open doors in realty. Key Associates. Key Associates.